of cracks and some of the erosion factors and everything there. So, therefore, in 1870 you had this one that is now constructed and is a behemoth. And then, so it was originally, well, it is still all brick, but it was originally that red brick. It didn't really do anything. 1873, it got its little swirling pattern there, and that is a day mark. So each lighthouse could be painted a little bit differently than the next. And so that is a day mark. You would have a log in your ship to kind of say, hey, this spiral is Cape Hatteras. The horizontal ones is Body Island, or the red one up top is Currituck, so they would know and have a list. Same thing at night. Each one has a different flashing pattern as well. So this one, if you're standing in one spot, you would see it for 1 second. It'll disappear for 7.5 seconds. You'll see it for 1 second, disappears for 7.5 seconds, so forth and so on. The sister one at Cape Lookout, see it for 1 second, it disappears for 15 seconds. You see it for 1 second. Currituck, you'll see it for 3 seconds, disappears for 17 seconds. So forth. All of them have a different flashing pattern. Same thing, you'd have a log so you would know where you were. Let me see here. Sorry, I moved some stuff around. All right, so I'll go back to letting y'all speak for just a second. Who here has moved before? Everybody. All right. I want to hear about that a little bit. Did you do it yourself? Did you hire movers?
Did it ourselves.
Everybody did it themselves. Anybody hire a mover? You did? Did they break anything? They did. All right. So I always like to kind of point that out. Now, the do-it-yourselfers. You just kind of throw everything in the back of the truck. No. Take some time. You have some stuff that you don't mind throwing in the back of the truck, but there's other things you want to take care of, correct? Mm-hmm. So you don't break anything. Did you succeed in not breaking anything?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. I like that answer. Okay. So what I'm getting at is everybody here know that this is not the original location of this lighthouse. So in 1999, this lighthouse was moved. You're actually pretty much sitting in the move path. So it was moved back in this direction, 2,900 feet, roughly half a mile. I have a picture in its original spot. You can see water's kind of getting a little close there. Well, moving the lighthouse was obviously not the first thought. It was kind of, hey, let's keep the beach from encroaching on the lighthouse. For those who did not know, you are slowly moving in a southwesterly direction right now, even though you don't know. This whole entire island is actually moving very slowly in the southwest direction. In 1870, when this was built, there wasn't much research that was done. They kind of assumed an old coral reef bed. Hardened structure, sand builds up on top, kind of like some of your islands in the Caribbean. In 1950, they actually started doing research, dug a bunch of core samples, found that these islands are essentially nothing but sand. Sand is very fluid and can move very easily. And so with the waves and the currents and everything else slowly moving in southwesterly direction. Well, there's still one jetty out there in the water. That was actually the third one. And they also put sandbags. They did beach renourishment, pumped sand in front of it. They did everything that they thought possible to keep the beach from encroaching on it. Well, Mother Nature's going to take what she wants. And so what do you do with the lighthouse? It's kind of a heated debate. Well, hey, let's add a fourth groin or jetty. Well, 3 of them didn't work. Why would a fourth? Well, you know what? Nature's going to do its thing. Let the ocean take it. You want a historical aspect. Though that's not the best thing to do. Is let it be at the bottom of the ocean. Well, build a seawall around it. And this was actually the first choice for quite some time. This was what they were going to do. Essentially, build a wall. Well, it would save the lighthouse and keep it in place. However, the ocean is still going to be retreating, so all of a sudden, this now becomes its own island, essentially. So you would not be able to walk up to it and kind of go in it and everything. You'd have to row out to it, scale the wall, and you probably would have it locked up anyway. So not necessarily the best idea, although this was for a while what they assumed was the best idea. then after a bunch of research and investigating, well, we hired people to do it. We didn't do it ourselves. People saying, hey, yeah, we can move that thing. No problem. Oh, okay. So that was what happened. And it's very, very much more technical than what I am about to explain. However, they dug underneath it. They supported it. They put it kind of essentially on a steel platform. They dug really deep. They actually could stand underneath that thing. And I show pictures like that and somebody goes, well, you'd have to be really brave to get underneath there. And I go, well, if it fell on you, it wouldn't hurt very long, I promise you. So some interesting facts about the lighthouse. Anybody want to take a crack at how many bricks are in it?
1,050,000.
Somebody watched the video. So that's how many were ordered? No, all of them were actually put in it. So I always like to say a little over 1.2 million bricks in the lighthouse. So now we know the amount of bricks, and there are some granite, down there at the bottom. We want to take a crack at how much it weighs. This is not in the video. Tons and tons.
Yeah.
All right, so over 4,800 tons, to be exact. And it weighs somewhere between 9 and 9.5 million pounds. Like I said, it wouldn't hurt very long, I promise. So, like I said, dug underneath, put it on a steel platform, support it and everything, and then essentially with 100 hydraulic jacks all lifting at the same time, they lifted it 7 feet straight in the air. And they put it on steel beams, kind of like railroad tracks. You can sort of see them here, but proof that they did it in one go and did not take it apart or anything. This is actually in move. And I know it's really small, and I will have these here later, but you can see there's kind of 7 beams, almost like railroad tracks. So instead of 2 wide, 7 wide. Where all the hydraulic jacks were, they put a Hillman roller, kind of a combination of a wheel and a tank track. That became the wheels for the lighthouse. Then on the middle 5 of the 7 beams, they clamped hydraulic jacks onto those, and then pushed it along at 5 feet per push, and then they'd have to reset them all, push, reset all, push. At about the grand whopping speed of 2 to 4 inches a minute. So every minute, something moving about that far. So if you were here, you would not necessarily have seen it move. It would be, you look at a tree, and you see that, and then we start talking for a little bit, and a couple of minutes go by, you look and go, hey, there actually was a little bit of movement there. Not necessarily like you can see a car moving like that. However, they did manage to move it to 2,900 feet. They did it in 23 days. It was actually easier than they thought. They guessed 4 to 6 weeks of move time. Like I said, we hired contractors, and instead of breaking anything, they actually didn't crack any mortar, didn't break a pane of glass or anything. Pretty spectacular stuff.
Did they have wires to the top so that it wouldn't topple over, or was it just...
So, the lighthouse's saving grace is it's not top heavy whatsoever. It actually has a very low center of gravity. You have 2 walls. You have the interior wall, which is essentially just a tube, same circumference all the way up. That's where the stairs are bolted to. Then you have the outer wall, which is kind of cone shaped, so think like a road cone or something like that. And then also the walls at the bottom are thicker than the walls at the top. So that helps lower that center of gravity. So as far as it wobbling and tipping over, not so much of a concern.
Okay.
Their concern is you have essentially a steel platform here that you're building, and if a hurricane or storm came, and that storm surge came here and started gouging out that sand from underneath it, then everything topples over.
Right.
Kind of. But they did use all kinds of sensors in it. They actually had a plumb that was dropping down. It was something that they monitored, best computers 1999 had. So didn't run into any sort of issues, pretty much at all. Anyway, last little thing as far as, yes?
On the calendar, what month did they do?
So they started on June 16th, and then they ended on July 9th. I think that's my math. It does. Be about 23 days as far as that goes. It was June and July. I know for a fact that it ended on July 9th, so 23 days before that's when the actual move started. It was a little over 6 months of digging underneath, prepping it, getting it all shored up and everything like that. And then some of you may or may not have noticed these granite blocks back here. you look at them, they look a lot like the granite blocks you see at the bottom of the lighthouse there. And that's because they are, essentially. There was a 5th layer of granite at the old site, and they took a diamond cut saw, went through the 5th and 4th layer, and then that's when they lifted up and moved it. For the longest time, those blocks were left in a circle at the old site to show where it was. Only problem with the old site is there's a whole bunch of sand around it, so every storm that would come through, it'd bury them. So you have to uncover them. Next storm, get buried, so forth and so on. Somebody said enough is enough, and so therefore they did move the blocks from the original location and put them here, in kind of the amphitheater style there. We like to joke and say it's the Wi-Fi signal. But also on the back of those stones you will see names, and those are the names of all the lighthouse keepers and when they were in service here. So the last little thing, and I'll end it, of course I will definitely stick around and answer any questions. When they moved it, they deemed it would be safe for 100 years because this island is still shifting and moving. So 100 years from now, if the ocean is encroaching on it again, what do we do then? It's like, do we want to move it again? Do we decide, it serves its purpose and let the ocean take it? Do we build that seawall and let it survive in the water as long as possible? Or as technology, come along and we don't have to worry about it anymore? It's kind of those things that make you go, So, but thank y'all very much. And like I said, I will stick around and answer any questions, but that does conclude my little light station talk for the afternoon here. So, thank you.
The lighthouse have a lighthouse keeper?
Not anymore. The last keeper was, I think, in 1938. Mr. Jeanette was the last actual lighthouse keeper. So, nice little, another fun fact, we were talking about the first order Fresnel lens, but that is not what we have in the lighthouse anymore. It's essentially an airport spotlight, 2 lights that rotate around. So in the late 30s, 1930s, the beach had encroached on the lighthouse, and it was deemed that it was not safe for use. Of course, at that point in time, moving it was not even a thought. So they abandoned the lighthouse, essentially, put a steel structure up in Buxton Woods to serve as the navigational aid. And we assume, at least I like to assume, lighthouse keepers, they had large families. Families didn't really move that far away. And so whenever the word got to them that the lighthouse was abandoned, the ocean was going to take it, essentially, they came into the lighthouse up to the top, took prisms out of that Fresnel lens to keep in the family, kind of that family keepsake. However, nature actually did build the beach back up in front of it over the following years, and in 1950 it was deemed that it was safe for use again. So prisms not being in the Fresnel lens makes the lens pretty much useless, and so therefore the spotlight was put in. However, the Coast Guard had taken over control of operations then, and you did not need a lighthouse keeper anymore. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other questions? Yes.
If you look at the names and dates on the keepers, many of them normally serve for like a year or that. Was there a reason why such a short period of time?
I would like to think, have you climbed the lighthouse?
Yeah.
Could you imagine climbing it every day multiple times with 5-gallon cans of oil to the top? Or having to clean all those windows and make sure that it's spotlessly clean? Or did you see the picture of the Fresnel lens?
Mm-hmm.
So all those prisms completely spotless? I could only imagine that a year would be enough for me.
Well, that last keeper did it for like about 20 years.
Exactly. So runs in the family, different type of person. To be honest, I don't have a clear answer to that. I can transport myself back and go, ooh, that was not what I was thinking. Although if you look, a lot of the names are very repetitive. It is kind of a family business, but they were federally employed, and like I said, I cannot attest to why some would only want to do it 1 year and some would love to do it for 20.
Isn't there a book written giving all the details of the move?
Oh yeah, there's books, plenty of them. There's documentaries. It made national news. So there's a lot of information out there on it for sure. You're very welcome. Yeah, y'all are free to go. I'm not going to keep you any longer by any means, but I can stand here and answer questions.
Can I take a look at some of those
Yeah,
photographs?
certainly.
Here. maybe put them down here. I'll make a video.
Yeah.
So,
I'll put them in the order that I presented them.
okay, good. What's your name?
My name is Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Avery.
Chuck.
Chuck, nice to meet you. So that was
Okay.
the first. That is the first original lighthouse.
Okay.
And then this is the second where they added brick on top of the original
Oh,
lighthouse.
okay, good.
And then
Also,
they
they just
also
put the brick on the top of it and just
pretty
built it up?
much.
Oh my goodness.
So then they also moved over to a first order Fresnel lens.
Yeah, I've seen these lenses. I've touched them. In fact,
They're beautiful. They
yeah,
absolutely
they're
are.
beautiful,
But
yeah.
this kind of shows how the old would bounce the light off, where the light goes through the Fresnel lens
Okay,
there.
yeah, okay.
And then we start moving into move photos.
Oh, okay.
Its original location,
Okay.
the idea of building a seawall.
Okay, let's build a seawall maybe.
Yeah. Then digging underneath it.
Let's dig it and see what happens here.
And people standing underneath.
Oh, man.
Then the lighthouse moving, actually.
Oh, okay, good.
And then the old stones at the old location in the circle.
Good.
We're from the Ohio area, and we for a while belonged to the organization that's trying to restore Lake Erie Lighthouse. It's out in the middle of Lake Erie. And they're having all kinds of trouble because, so they're getting to it.
Were you here when he said that second picture?
With the currents and everything,
This
it's
is the
hard to
original, that
get
second one is
people
they put brick
up
Yeah.
onto the lighthouse or be able to get into it, they want to be able to have people stay there and be able to do tours and stuff, but the weather has to be certain,
We can understand. We consider ourselves in Hurricane Alley.
Yeah.
So therefore, we can
We're not,
understand the
yeah.
weather for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, you have those giant lakes, which are essentially oceans there too. It can get pretty turbulent.
And then the other thing, we have friends that live in Eatonton, and then there's some with that
Cape Hatteras National Seashore Visitor Center and Bookstore.
Alright, you gotta choose one. We chose last time and it's terrible.
You have a great day. Thank you. Can I help you? It's terrible over here. That's the, just pieces of glass that you can sometimes can find. Pretty blue and green. Just out in the ocean, on the beach. Yeah, we've been finding brown and white ones.
No, but thank you anyway.
Okay, I just see video.
Yeah, it is.
pick out which one you like, you start with it. Okay?
house on the first floor. It's sitting on the bed.